Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. There's a lot of ways to listen to the show, but of course today, when this is airing, is May 21st, 2022, and we are marking a bit of modern history, commemorating both a big change happening in El Paso broadcasting, as well as the many changes that have been seen in the medium and in personal experience over the years. You can, of course, find us on air, online, live streaming on KTSMradio.com, and with the full video that we have up on the El Paso History Radio Show Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page, Remember in El Paso When, our our partners there. And this is, of course, the place where we say Texas history begins in El Paso. And we do have a history moment commentary today at the top of hour 2 from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk. Today he talks about heritage tourism, its potential impact in the region, and more. So our guest today here is Kevin Lovell, the general manager for KVIA-TV. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Andrew.
Very happy to have you on here. We've had you on this program in previous times, marking previous kind of occasions here, but this one is, well, pretty, if only personally momentous for yourself here. For those that have maybe somehow missed any word of this, describe a little bit about what's going on and what it means to you.
Well, on June 1st, I'm retiring from broadcast, from employment, from KVIA-TV, and I've spent about 40 years working for KVIA or the owners of KVIA. Mm-hmm. And first arriving, I worked 3 years in Amarillo for the same group that owned KVIA at that time, and that's KVII, and it was a very flamboyant owner named Stanley Marsh III, who many have heard of, the Cadillac Ranch buried outside of Amarillo.
Oh, yeah, that's a connection.
He's the one who started that, and he owned KVII and KVIA. I worked 3 years in Amarillo and then got an opportunity. I wanted to do sports, so I came to El Paso in 1980. And short of 2 years in San Antonio in the early 90s as a news reporter at Ken's TV, I've been at El Paso raising my family for all these years, and added all up again, a total of 40 years for the ownership of KVIA. So it's momentous in a couple of areas. I think primarily is that essentially no one retires from a television station. People leave. They go do other things, as you have. You were a KVIA employee, a very fine one, a news reporter, MMJ. They find different walks of life, whether they go into teaching or some go to law school or they go into marketing or public relations or whatever. But TV is just so frenetic and relentless, and the turnover and the change of ownerships and this and that, it does lead most everyone to fall by the wayside. And so KVIA signed on the air in 1956. And I've been here since 80, and I've tabulated as best I can know the total number of people that have retired from KVIA, and I will be number 7.
Wow.
That's it. And that's a very successful TV station. But even, for example, Gary Warner is the only other retiree who had a primary news background. Everyone else who retired was in engineering or other walks of life in the station or sales. So news is one that really churns people out because you've got the relentless pace and pressure. And I spent so many years in news, and then I stepped over to become a news director at KVI ABC 7. And then in the last now almost 23 years, I've been general manager. And general manager for 23 years consecutively, that is unprecedented in El Paso. And I'm not patting myself on the back. That's just a fact because of the constant churn. And I'm presently, I've been told by the Texas Association of Broadcasters, I'm the longest serving consecutively general manager in the state of Texas. So at 23 years, people have moved on to other walks of life, and so I think that's why it's rather remarkable. And I tie together multi-generations of KVIA employees starting in 1980. So we have that's really a Gary Warner era with people like Stevie Carpenter, who anchored. There was Tama Allgood. Fred Albers was there with me in that era, and we had John Fawcett and Jim Gamble. And I mean, these people moved on and are in Jim Gamble's case, unfortunately, he died prematurely of not too many years ago. And then we have a new generation, which I designate as the Gary Warner, Suzanne Michaels generation. This was a generation that largely was built, the empire was built by Richard Pearson, who became the GM of KVIA some point in the mid to late 80s. And he led KVIA out of the doldrums. We were a number 3 station at that. In that era, you had public stations and 3, ABC, CBS, NBC.
The big 3, yep.
The big 3. And Richard was hired around the mid-'80s, and he really led KVIA to prominence. And Gary Warner was part of that machine. And as I said, John Fawcett and Gamble and Fred Albers and Jeff Lindbergh and all the people that made KVIA great. I guess I'll go ahead and finish the story.
Yeah.
And so in 1991, well, I ended up in the late 80s kind of having I wouldn't say midlife crisis. It was about 10 years into my career. I was 32, 33 years old. I hold another distinction. I'm backtracking. I'm the longest serving general manager in KVIA and El Paso TV history. I am also the longest serving weekend sportscaster in KVIA and probably El Paso television history. 7 consecutive years I was a weekend sportscaster in the 80s at KVIA. And that's Fred Albers was the sports director. So I have that long tenure there as well. But after that kind of ran its course, it was time to move on to help support my family. I went and got a master's degree at UTEP, started teaching part-time at the community college in UTEP. I then went into advertising with Sanders Wingo, Galvin, and Morton Advertising, worked with Bob Wingo, who's still going strong in El Paso. Learned very quickly that, believe it or not, advertising is probably more difficult than TV. But, but TV, a major component is advertising. I fled back to TV and then decided, okay, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I think I'm good enough to get in a bigger market. So I went to San Antonio for 2 years as a news reporter. That's when I got a phone call from the Richard Pearson, Dan Krieger, and Fred Albers, Udell Vigil. These people, Jeff Lindbergh, Jim Gamble, seemingly half of KVIA had shifted from Channel 7 to Channel 9 to go to KTSM. The Community Foundation had taken over ownership of KTSM, and they recruited Richard because he had done so well.
Right.
He was an El Pasoan through and through, and he left, and before long, within a year or so, all of these employees followed him over there. Gary Warner stayed at 7, and some other longtime employees did as well, but that's when it became a Channel 9 versus Channel 7 dogfight for rating supremacy. And I was in San Antonio for 2 years, and I believe it was Fred Albers, who's very close to still to this day. They needed an assignment editor, which I elevated to an assistant news director title, so I could have it as a more premier title. And they called me, and I liked San Antonio, and my wife really liked it. I had 2 daughters. But I thought, I really need to get into management. There would be greater likelihood of making more money, as many headaches as it is, but there's nothing more hairier than being a weekend sportscaster and doing the Borderland Blitz high school football show and all that stuff. So you get used to and all the deadlines, which you know. So they recruited me back to Channel 9. And I went to KTSM, not KVIA, from San Antonio. And I worked for a year and a half there with the old regime, the Richard Pearson regime. And Art Olivas, an El Pasoan of long standing, was the general manager of KVIA. And he recruited me to return to KVIA as the news director. That got me back to KVIA in 1995, from whence I have been all this time, consecutively since 95. For about 5 years, I was a news director, and the last 23 almost, I've been the general manager. So there's the brief cliff notes of sort of what I've experienced and how it may relate. And there's many other issues as far as who goes where and because KDBC made a good run, and people like Raymond Mesa, who had been at KVIA and KTSM, he ended up going to KDBC. Estela Casas was recruited from KDBC to go to KVIA by Art Olivas, and it was Dan Krieger ultimately left KTSM to go to KDBC. And Dan is very synonymous. He was the news director at KVIA. He was a station manager at KTSM, and then the news director or station manager, I'm not sure, at KDBC. But we've had, all this competition. It goes on even in recent era. And if you turn on the television station right now in El Paso and you switch channels, there is no question, that KVIA for several decades is the true iconic legacy station. Because if you turn on, let's say, KFOX, all right, you see Robert Olguin, who's a KVI alum. You see John Purvis, who's a KVI alum. For the longest time, they had Lou Romano, who's a KVI alum, I believe just left. Sheldon Dodson, who just left, I believe. He's a KVI alum. So we have our tentacles throughout the market. KTSM has had a host of KVI employees that migrated over there. KFOX, KDBC, as I was saying. So, we've just kind of been going strong as best we can with fierce competition. And I can say it's been fun and a challenge throughout.
I think it could be excused having a little bit of bias in that era, but also the proof is in the pudding. And I mean, you've got some things that people will be seeing on air as we get towards, again, as you mentioned, your retirement and the transition that is coming with it, that will attest to that, among other things. We actually have a short clip here that may be a little bit of a nostalgia bomb for some people out here, but we're just going to pop it up here real quick because I find it fascinating. I've been, if I can be considered an amateur historian in anything, it's been in El Paso's broadcast history. So seeing things like this, I find very informative here. So you can see the video, but we'll also have the audio up from it over on the radio. But on our social media, you'll be able to see this playing.
Back-to-back titles. They also want to see our tape of what happened with the episode that followed. The Big West Conference says it will not take action against Neil McCarthy.
It's designed, of course, to give girls a chance not only.
So we've got just some of the previous faces there, and there's one specific clip we'll play a little bit later from it here because it's the real fascinating part of it, I do believe. So we'll play that a little bit later in the program here. But again, joining us in studio right now is Kevin Lovell, current and soon to be outgoing general manager of KVIA.
I got to giggle. I'm sorry, Andrew. I live it. I breathe it. You do. Technical snafus, issues always happen. I saw you before the program, line it up, cue it up, get it all ready, and then it's not there. Another thing, it's just the way it goes. I've seen that. That's why I've had many sleepless nights, and now I kind of laugh about it for all these many years, because if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah, that's very true here. So we'll get that restarted here and playing more on our audio here. So, but again, joining us in studio, Kevin Lovell, current general manager, talking about his history and the differences in broadcast that he's seen. So we're going to go ahead and take that break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll be talking more about that history, more of the remembrances. This is a pre-recorded episode, but we will take, of course, those comments over on social media, perhaps pop them up while we're doing this replay. So stay tuned for more of the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given-Baney. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592-4549.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Ralph Dickerson is ready to help you combine home and auto and save here in El Paso. Call 915-581-0000 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national survey by State Farm of new policyholders who reported savings by switching to State Farm.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live with video right here on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com. Our live streaming on Facebook started on November 21st, 2020, with our tribute to Leon Metz, which you can now listen to here on our Facebook page, El Paso History Radio Show. Scroll down our page to find that archive in our videos section. You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the...
We are, of course, the El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook. You can go there for our weekly promo announcements on the topics of the program each week and find us in the many ways we are on social media these days, including our YouTube channel, youtube.com/El Paso History TV, which beyond this broadcast, which you can also tune in live over there and comment on, you can also find all of our previous broadcasts as well as many of the previous programs we have put on, including the couple decades worth of El Paso Gold documentary series going on, including, just as a relevant topic for today, the ABC7 series we did on El Paso History TV, including Bernie Sargent there. So again, joined here in studio, we do of course have Kevin Lovell, the current and soon to be retiring general manager of KVIA. Thank you very much for joining us here in studio today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Happy to have you along here to talk about these things. So, because we got a lot of stuff going on here, one other thing we don't want to remind about our sponsors, Pepe's Restaurant in Canutillo, open for in-house dining at 6761 Donovan Drive. You can call Pepe's at 915-877-2152, home of the Juan and only margarita. We won't be headed out there today, but they've got great food any day of the week, so make sure to go and find them again, 6761 Donovan Drive and 915-877-2152. Here. So, Kevin, we were talking a little bit before the break about your scope of history and span of time there in the various broadcast roles, and as a good way to demonstrate it, we have actually part of a clip that you're all going to be doing is, well, part of the commemoration of all of this stuff here. So again, people want to see this over on our social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv under El Paso History or Andrew J. Polk. They can find us on here. This may, again, bring up some memories for some here.
In their parents' footsteps.
It brought together health
and we'll get that again, some more of the faces that have gone by there. We'll get the exact first part coming up here shortly, because that's another interesting aspect of it here. But just, I mean, again, just attesting to some of the names here and some of the people who have gone by is very interesting. So we were talking a little bit about how you initially, let's just go back straight to the beginning there, your initial time coming to broadcasting.
Well, I wanted to be, as many who enter the industry wanted to be, a sportscaster. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the Panhandle in a little town called Dalhart, and then went to college in Nacogdoches at Stephen F. Austin State University. They had trees. I played a lot of golf. They had water, and they had warm winters. And then I migrated and started my career in Amarillo, and then spent almost my entire career in Amarillo 3 years, and then in El Paso for some 40 years. And so it's been quite a run, and I've done a lot of different things in television broadcasts, as everyone is required to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wearing many different hats is more than a little bit of the standard order of the day, I feel, for people here. So you just found yourself kind of, I guess, was sports always the main focus for you?
Well, early on, but it's never really gotten out of my blood. I to this day, I shot 17 consecutive years of sideline video of Texas, Oklahoma, because I wanted to, and I also provided that content to KVIA, and it would, that particular game has ferocious emotion surrounding it. It's at the State Fair of Texas, so every October for 17 consecutive years until COVID set me back one year, I did that. So I've assisted and helped out in sports, but that's not my job. I left sports behind in like 1986 or 7, and I do it just kind of an avocation. My vocation, of course, been general manager for 23 years, news director 5 years before that, and people say, do you miss sports? Yes, but I'm still very much involved in it. And I like being the general manager. I love sports too, but there's so many different facets of the television station, from news to sales. That's where everything evolves around news and sales. But then you've got the support roles, promotions, accounting, engineering, and of course the sales that you have to do. And you got to tie it all together and just make the operation the best you possibly can. So there's always something to do. And that's what I do, is I go into work every day, and I go home at night and on the weekends, and I monitor our product, and I have constant feedback to people at the station producing product or selling our advertising, that I'm just on my game all the time. And I guess, I'm 67 years old. I've been at it a long time. And as I said in the prior news segment, that I like what I do, but it's pretty frenetic for a long time. And I thought, all right, you know what? I've paid my dues. Let's move on. Brenda, Deonda, Swan. I'm very honored that our existing news director at KVIA of many years running. She's worked under me, with me for a great many years. She's been news director, I think, 13 years. She got the station in 1998, and she is very, very smart. And she's also from news, which is, again, will make only the second general manager in El Paso that has a primary news background. All the rest have come from sales. So that was ironic, because when I became news director, even to this day, I remain the only one with primarily a news background. Usually it's from sales. Well, Brenda has a news background as well. But our company ownership had enough, confidence in me. And when you're managing a news department, it's the craziest, zaniest, biggest 24-hour pressure operation in the newsroom. So they figure, well, if you can manage that, you can manage the station.
I mean, there's certain cross-application of skills here, but there's a whole lot more that goes into it. So we got to take that next break here already at the bottom of the hour. But coming out of this, we'll talk more about the changes, the scope and span of your experience involved with this. Again, joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell, current general manager of KVIA-TV, talking on the occasion of his pending retirement here coming up at the end of the month here. So stay tuned for more of the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592-4549.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Ralph Dickerson is ready to help you combine home and auto and save here in El Paso. Call 915-581-0000 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national survey by State Farm of new policyholders who reported savings by switching to State Farm.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live with video right here on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com. Our live streaming on Facebook started on November 21st, 2020, with our tribute to Leon Metz, which you can now listen to here on our Facebook page, El Paso History Radio Show. Scroll down our page to find that archive in our videos section. You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page, Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592-4549.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Ralph Dickerson is ready to help you combine home and auto and save here in El Paso. Call 915-581-0000 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national survey.
Welcome back here to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. If you're, of course, joining us over on the social media, you'll be seeing the playback there as well. Maybe not be exactly in time with our on-air because different level of breaks here, but all of it can be found in the many ways that we are online and airing these days. Want to talk about some of our partners, of course, and talking about local history and topics. Make sure to go and check out celebrationofourmountains.org, celebrationofourmountains.org, because they have a lot of field trips out there, a lot of geology topics, a lot of ways to very directly experience, well, part of our physical history here in the borderland. Coming up a little bit later this month, or actually next month, they're going to be having a Sunspot Observatory tour and a whole lot more, including right at the end of the month, continuing their Useful Plant series out at Artavino's Desert Crossing, so be sure to go and find them there. And, of course, want to mention something else going on today, as a matter of fact, that there is the El Paso Train Show that's going to be going on throughout the rest of the day till 5 p.m. today out there at 801 South Hawkins at the Freeport-McMoran Copper Refinery Park. Again, 801 South Hawkins, and again, started at 9 a.m., going until 5 p.m. today, and put out there by, again, some of our great partners in history as well. I mean, I've heard them talking about that last week, so go and check them out there, 801 South Hawkins at the Freeport-McMoran Copper Refinery Park. But in the meantime, we are, of course, joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell, the general manager of KVIA-TV, talking about some of the history that you have directly experienced in the time of broadcasting. So over the course of your whole career being in broadcasting, seen a lot of changes there. I mean, some of the interesting things that have even just I've seen the change of. You mean, I did spend my time over there at KVIA as well for about 4 years in a reporter, MMJ, and anchor role here. And one of the real more physical aspects of history I encountered was the still use of, not for outgoing calls, but for routing of calls of a rotary telephone. I do recall here the thing about just the physical historical infrastructure here, because, I mean, it was in place since that facility was around and therefore still found a useful life in the modern realm. But the changes that you've seen over the years, even just the technological aspects, to take that as an example, must have been pretty significant.
Well, when it started was at the very tail end of film.
Oh, really?
We shot 16 millimeter film. And you got to go back again. This is in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And when the transition, and that was done in Amarillo, not El Paso. And not only did you have to shoot the film, you had to process it, and you had to go in the dark. First, you had to mix all the chemicals, and which was challenging. And then you had to turn the lights off. You had to thread the film, just like people that did work with film know. And that was just a cataclysmic change when we went from there to 3/4 inch video, which was very heavy camera and a deck that you put over the other shoulder, and you lug this stuff around, and it was extremely heavy. Then they got to smaller formats like Beta and DVC Pro, and eventually everything migrated now to the digital format where you have these little cards.
Yeah.
The cameras are lighter. The cameras are actually much less expensive, and as a matter of fact, the video that can be shot on cell phones is high quality. It's fine.
Yeah.
People shoot entire stories. I know reporters that will shoot entire stories on cell phone, and it looks fine. And the viewer is so accustomed to it. The viewer is seeing so much YouTube video through the years and all. So if it's grainy or scratchy or whatever, they don't care anymore. You want sometimes to be pristine and beautiful and crystal clear and the very best quality. Other times you just jam it out. And as long as you're conveying the news, the information, the format has changed, but the interest in the viewer to know what's going on never ceases.
I actually had the opportunity to see part of a collection of, I want to say one of our local stations, but I think it was commingled from some regional as well, that had been in archive. And as all the changes happen over the years and things move out, essentially these, it ended up in 5-gallon buckets, but still in their little steel cases of the actual, I think it was the 60 millimeter film that involved. Not like, there wasn't like exactly like a Lindbergh landing in El Paso moment that was rumored to be in that collection, but just, scenes of the time, stuff that if you're not going to use it anymore for, a day production kind of situation for a news station, might think like, okay, this is taking so much space, but has become of incredible archive value if you can take the time to process it. But I mean, of course, the time of that era and the technology used there still has its impacts today, both in terms of quality presentation, B-roll, as we still refer to it, because that very much comes from that era. You had your A-roll and your B-roll, and the B-roll is what you ran to cover things. But even in terms like cut, paste, all of these came out of the actual physical act of having to use cutting systems to cut the film to then put them together.
Good point. Very true. VO byte. That's voiceover into a sound bite. We still use that terminology, and so a lot of it is maintained. The other thing that's just astonishing, though, is it started with the development of websites. And then all of the digital mastery that has continued in the years since then. And the access to information for reporters and the public.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like, now you can find information instantaneously on anything. And before, reporters had to do a lot of research. And if you were doing a PhD dissertation, you had to go in libraries. Now, with dissertations, you probably still have to go in libraries. But I'm just saying, the old microfilm, microfiche era, it's all now been digitally recorded. It's available to everyone. Now, that has created incredible challenges for journalists, because now essentially there's citizen reporters everywhere. What's fact? What's fiction? What's balanced? What's been vetted? And it's changed it so much that a lot of times the viewing public maybe has trouble discerning what is legitimate news and what isn't. And even at the national level, everything is so polarized. You can ask most people in the community, and they'll be able to identify, you name a network, and they're going to say which way they are slanted. So they don't believe that it's balanced. That's the one hallmark. That is the one great thing about local media. Local media is perceived to be, and is, in my view, still balanced and fair. And there's an attempt to show both sides of the story locally. And you remember, you were at KVIA and ABC7, and you have to do it. You have to give the other altering viewpoint. You don't want to be an activist journalist, which you see so much on social media and in a national scope. So we police that all of the time to try to balance things out and make our reporting as fair as possible. It's a challenge, but you must be conscious of it all the time.
It's interesting you mentioned there, that the barrier to entry essentially has been lowered, both in terms of people doing it on their own, but also in what can be put out there. Because, in this era with the phrase that has come around, fake news, it used to take quite a lot of technology and infrastructure to be able to produce it. And now in this modern era, when you can put up a website and say literally anything you want on the internet, it has now become more incumbent on individuals to be able to discern and divine, which has had myriad impacts within both globally and within our specific society. But it's interesting you bring up there, because accountability to the community has always been one of the most important parts of, local reporting, local journalism in general here. Because, I got more than a few calls, and still do in this program, of people saying, oh, that was great, or no, that was total bunk, or why are you talking about this and not about this? That kind of feedback, that loop that you don't get once you start getting to more statewide or national levels, I find still to be very important here. And I'm sure that has been a very important part throughout the span of the career we're talking about here.
True. And the news and the news talk that you produce, Andrew, your afternoon daily program, the El Paso Radio History Show. Now, of course, the Radio History Show, by its very nature, is not as controversial as the topics that you must address on a regular basis. But you do it in a traditional manner. Most of the news talk, or the talk that you hear on the radio, on satellite radio, on television cable at night, it's slanted. And people tend to migrate to that which they believe in and like. Well, here in El Paso, I really believe there's a genuine effort to balance things out. Everyone tries to tell both sides. And I think that's so important, and I salute you for doing that in your role as a news talk radio host.
No, I appreciate that. You're a little bit out of our focus for today, but I appreciate it nonetheless here as we're talking about many of the aspects that have changed over the years. So just to kind of put a pin in this point, then when it comes to what you've seen in those changes, I mean, there have always been questions and concerns about, accuracy of reporting. This is nothing new to the modern era, even if it does seem to have gone on faster. Just from your perspective of the history, then, is this, the phrase you said there, such a divisive time, does this feel like, from your perspective over the decades of having done this, like it is something completely out of what has happened before?
It is, but you can find reputable journalism and reporting that is so-called mainstream. It's out there. You just have to search for it. Many times it's hidden behind a paywall. And now if you want to get the El Paso Times or Diario, or you still have to pay. If the Dallas Morning News, you name it, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, you've got to pay for it. Now, stories get posted everywhere online, individual stories, but you don't, again, that's an individual story. You're not getting the balance of the full perspective that you would get in a traditional newspaper or online source. So it's just the buyer beware. In this case, it's the public, to just beware of what you're reading, seeing, and yes, you may gravitate to that which you prefer to listen to, but I challenge you to also look at the other side. I still, and I subscribe to two newspapers that I read the Times every day. I read the Las Cruces Sun News. I finally moved to the digital versions. I received for many years the USA Today and the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal in El Paso stopped producing the printed version.
Right.
So now I have to see that online. I prefer the printed version. I still get my USA Today. My point is that USA Today's slant is entirely different than the Wall Street Journal slant, but I consume from all varieties of news sources to try to get a balanced perspective.
I mean, that's something that is, I think, an important skill here. But again, we're talking with Kevin Lovell right now, current general manager and soon to be retiring there at KVIA-TV, talking about his span of career and history there. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will play that clip that we have that may again be a nostalgia bomb for some here. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC7 News reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco Tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592.
Thank you so very much for being here with us on this pre-recorded episode of the El Paso History Radio Show. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A few things I want to remind you about, of course, further partners in talking about local history. Talk and Rock Radio, Rick Kern, the host of that podcast. Visit talkandrockradio.com to see what he's got going on. A lot of his great segments and great interviews with a lot of the musicians of El Paso's recent and very important past when it comes to that. More significant than you may believe. We've had some previous episodes with him as well and some great topics, so definitely worth giving him a look out there. And of course, continuing to talk about some of our sponsors here, Monterey Asset Management. They have updated their name to M1EP Management Corporation. Their website, m1ep.com. That's m1ep.com. You can give them a call at 915-592-4549, 915-592-4549 to find out all the opportunities for investing in homes and even property management. Again, m1ep.com. So again, joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell, current general manager and soon to be retiring there at KVIA-TV, marking his quite long span, 20 years plus in position, the current position, but much longer than that as well. And so to kind of mark that, we have had that clip that we've been unintentionally teasing here for a minute on the idea of, what has been a part of KVIA's history.
Live from the KVIA-TV Telecommunications Center, this is the most watched early newscast in West Texas and southern New Mexico with Suzanne Michaels, Gary Warner, John Fawcett with weather, and Fred Albers on sports.
If you could change anything about American journalism right now, what would it be?
I guess I'd say we need to all do a better job of making things interesting so that people will want to watch.
It is time for you to talk to Sam. We go to East El Paso with Joe. Joe, welcome.
Sam.
Hey, Joe.
How you doing? I think you're brilliant. I think you're a brilliant journalist.
I'm glad you called, Joe. Just
Los Angeles Lakers will have a chance.
And again, just some of the names and faces we were mentioning there that people may definitely recognize here. And that'll be a part of what people will actually be able to see on air as this, this transition is being marked here, the passing of the torch, as you all are referring to it as well. So, I mean, looking back on the career so far, I mean, we've talked a little bit about some of the changes to the modern here, but I guess kind of in this reference, as we're closing out just this first hour of the program, what are some of your kind of final thoughts on how you're leaving it?
Well, I kind of wanted to touch on, if I could segue to this, we looked at a little clip there, and all of the people that, I mean, incredible array of talent that have been not only KVI, but other television stations in El Paso through the years. Many have gone on to network level jobs. And we have Alex Perez, who's ABC network news correspondent, who spent time at KVIA. We have anchors in Dallas and Chicago, and we've had reporters in Los Angeles and Cincinnati. You just go on and on. People that have chosen to move on to bigger markets and have been able to make better income, but they still look back very fondly on their experience at KVIA. I don't remember anybody leaving El Paso and say, I didn't like it. They all liked it. But Sam Donaldson has been a rich fabric of KVIA's past because he was an ABC journalist. You know, Sam Donaldson School of Journalism at UTEP. Sam is going to pay us a visit on my last week to say hello. He lives in Albuquerque. He has a ranch in Hondo, New Mexico. I looking at that clip we were just listening. We talk about the KVIA Telecommunications Center, and it shows this span, this view up. I was not involved in the production of that particular open to the newscast. That is not the KVIA Telecommunications Center. That was probably the tallest building in El Paso at the time. It makes it seem like that is it when we've been on Rio Bravo Street since the 1970s.
Right.
So, a little, now this is way back in the 80s, but I'll tell you what, you don't get any more real than Gary Warner and Suzanne Michaels and Fred Albers and John Fawcett. And again, all are long since gone, and we now have Stephanie Valle and Eric Elkin and Doppler Dave Spielman and Adrian Ochoa doing sports, and really talented people that are dedicated to the craft, a great many of them from El Paso, producing the best product they can.
Absolutely. So we'll have to talk more about that and the history we're discussing here with Kevin Lovell, again, General Manager, soon to be retired from KVIA-TV. So again, we'll be back with more on the El Paso History Radio Show in the second hour to talk more about this, including a history moment. So stay tuned for more on that after this break.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC7 News reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco Tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592-4549.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Ralph Dickerson is ready to help you combine home and auto and save here in El Paso. Call 915-581-0000 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national survey by State Farm of new policyholders who reported savings by switching to State Farm.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live with video right here on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com. Our live streaming on Facebook started on November 21st, 2020, with our tribute to Leon Metz, which you can now listen to here on our Facebook page, El Paso History Radio Show. Scroll down our page to find that archive in our videos section. You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing on this pre-recorded episode here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We'll be continuing our conversation with Kevin Lovell on his retirement as general manager of KVIA-TV. But in the meantime, we of course start hour 2 with a history moment commentary. In this case, with a documentary producer Jackson Polk here on heritage tourism and its impact potentially in the borderland.
El Paso should be known widely for its rich history and heritage, but it is not. The city and county budgets for tourism promotion are often spent on attracting people to El Paso for entertainment venues, mountain hiking, and downtown nightlife. El Paso should be known for our world-class human and natural history, but that promotion is usually left to private groups and individuals who have limited promotional budgets. The Texas Historical Commission says that Texas heritage tourism is a $7.3 billion annual business and accounts for more than 10% of all travel in the state. Heritage tourists stay longer and tend to spend more when they travel. Tourists love historic districts and preserved or restored sites, like El Paso's Mission Trail. Each year, there are millions of potential visitors who travel Interstate 10 through El Paso, but most of them don't know about the many historic events and places in our county they could stop to see. Local governments should aggressively promote area history to state and national audiences. We could see an increase in hotel and restaurant business and more tax revenues to help protect historic, cultural, and natural resources. Heritage tourism is a clean business that can help grow our local economy. After all, Texas history begins in El Paso. We should take advantage of that rich resource. I'm Jackson Polk with this History Moment commentary for the El Paso History Radio Show.
And of course, we do all of this work that we do here and producing this show with a lot of partners in history, including, of course, our great partners on the Facebook page, El Paso, Remember in El Paso When, with Barbara Given Bainey as the chief admin, owner, and historian. They are a great Facebook group with more than 33,000 members that put a lot of work into the things that they put on here. May have seen a little bit more discussion about some of the topics we're discussing here in general El Paso broadcast history, mentioned in the week leading up to this as well. So please give them credit when you use anything from their site. And of course, they have a lot of help in that as well, besides Barbara Given Bainey, affectionately known as BGB. There are also admins Rick Duncan, Rick Nahara, Margaret D. Smith, Paul Louie, and moderators Ben Vincent, and joining them as of this week, Al Lowe and Charlie De La Rosa. So they do a lot of great work in helping promote our history. And one other of our sponsors I also want to mention here, Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker, Heritage Real Estate. You can give them a call at 915-588-1850, 915-588-1850. Patrick is an excellent realtor, is doing some very heavy lifting for our family. And if you want to go to him for El Paso homes for sale or rent, again, 915-588-1850. So again, joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell, the soon-to-be retired general manager of KVIA-TV, marking quite the span of a career here. So we have been talking a lot about some of the faces in that clip that we played right before the start of the hour, the restart of the hour here, that may have just conjured up quite a bit of nostalgia for some people, because there have been a lot of very notable names, chief among them, at least in that promo, for me anyway. I mean, having met a lot of those people over the course of my career and just personal knowledge of them. I mean, Gary Warner is an institution in and of himself.
Absolutely. Gary Warner was at KVIA for 33 years. 1 year he left to go to CNN. He was good enough. He was an anchor doing CNN headline news when it first started. He didn't like Atlanta, the lifestyle, the weather, whatever, and then he came back to El Paso. And it was Richard Pearson that recruited him to come back to KVIA. And again, so he had a 33-year career minus 1 year in Atlanta at CNN. He was good enough, plenty good enough to stay at CNN. He is a network-level anchor, and he was so polished and so professional. And everybody who ever worked or encountered Gary Warner could be nothing but impressed. And Gary Warner works with Estella Casas, who's a legend. She was at KVIA for 27 years. Prior to that, she worked Spanish language television. She worked at KTSM and KDBC. And she left 2 years ago. And she initially took a job with UMC Health Foundation, and now she's working with the Viva Auto Group, handling their marketing and advertising. And love Estella. And we've just had some. Rick Cabrera was a premier anchor for many years. He left. He's in the insurance business. DeMargo's company. Dee is now retired. His son Don runs the insurance company. And then I think about Hillary Florin, who's been doing Good Morning El Paso for almost a quarter century, as beautiful and vivacious as ever. Doppler Dave Spielman has been going on more than 20 years at KVIA. Right. And so, you just kind of, when I worked with them and tie all this together, and you think of all the other incredible names of people that Stephanie Townsend, Ayala, John Fawcett, Suzanne Michaels, Ann Simmer, Roger Meyer, Jeff Lindbergh, Roger Smith, Betsy MacArthur, Robert Bettis, Larry Wolpe, Christina Montoya. It just goes on. And these are people that I've just been thinking of as I wind up my career that have graced our presence at KVI. And there are many, many more that have just been outstanding in so many different ways.
El Paso, in a lot of ways, tends to have a little bit of a skewed perspective on it when it comes to the longevity of people in certain careers. Because even when I was in broadcast TV, and even now, people say, "Oh, that person came and went within a couple of years," which is, as you kind of mentioned, more or less the industry standard, but in a lot of ways, and not even just within broadcasting, but also with, say, sports coaches. El Pasoans have this concept that someone comes and then stays there forever. And that is not generally how it works, but it has happened that way around here. Almost kind of, it's almost, you would tend to call it a fluke, except for the fact that it has happened decently consistently over, again, long spans of time.
Yes, I mean, Don Haskins set the example.
Exactly.
39 years, coach of the Texas Western UTEP Miners. And, looking back on my career, the 20th anniversary of the Texas Western National Championship in 1966. In 1986, I produced a documentary, Texas Western Takes It All, which was the first documentary, and it's the only time that the team got together at the Haskins Center, and they had some other events. Every other time, somebody was missing or gone or not there. So that, historically, is it is clearly the most significant sports achievement in the history of the city, without question. And one time, I had a discussion with Leon Metz, and he listed ranked the top 10 events in El Paso history. Juan de Oñate, fording, all these kinds of things like that. You've got to put Texas Western winning the national championship in basketball and Glory Road and all that. It's got to be in the top 10. So, again, we've had staying power in many ways, and with a number of anchors and others in the industry. Yes, there are a lot of people that choose and want to make El Paso their home. It's just the opportunity of bright lights. I think about somebody like Robert Olguin. He was in the newspaper at the El Paso Times, was a fine reporter. We recruited him, and he came to KVI, and he was a very good anchor. I did the mornings. I think he did the weekend anchoring. He was an excellent reporter. Well, he had a yearning for the big time, and he went to Los Angeles, and he was a reporter in Los Angeles for 10 years, and then wanted to come back home, wanted to come to El Paso, where his family, where his roots are. At that time, we did not have a premier anchor position for him, and he ended up at KFOX, and he's still going strong there. So, it's just the timing and where you go, but it's nice to the people that want to stay and be in El Paso.
Yeah, but again, the fact that then there's still that kind of turnover, has that always existed in, this kind of standardized 2-year contract is the way it's often thought of as being, any position coming in, the concept has often been, at least in my era, doing this, that you either move up or you move up to a better position or move out of town is the way it's done. Was that the way it always was in your experience?
Until you work your way, if you're in a Monday through Friday primetime anchor position, as we were talking about with Eric Elkin, Stephanie Vaya, or even a morning show like Hillary Florin, those positions people will stay for a very long time. It's the weekenders and nightsiders and early morning anchor people and whatever. They tend to look for opportunities. They come in 2 or 3 years. many of them come from El Paso. They sow their roots here. They're from here. They go to Loretto Academy or Bel Air High School or Parkland High School, and they do great and stay here. In other cases, we must recruit because we don't have enough quality candidates in El Paso. So we go to Arizona State, University of Missouri, Syracuse, whatever. And those are more likely to stay 2 to 3 years because they don't have their roots here. So if all things are relatively equal, I want to hire local every single time. But we don't have that many journalists that are coming out. New Mexico State does a nice job. They produce student-run newscasts. UTEP has improved, and UTEP has better editing equipment. But they don't produce traditional news. They do have the public radio station. So basically, they've got to come in as interns, and they've got to learn the business from ground up. Whereas at other universities, like ESU has the Walter Cronkite School. UTEP's getting better all the time, by the way. But they come in more ready to turn, ready to go, which helps because it's a long period of time to learn the business.
Right.
And it's very challenging, the demands and whatever. And if you do learn the business, it's exhilarating. But it's just something that I'll tell you this: there is no business in the world more faster paced than a television newsroom.
And it does seem like it's gotten faster paced here. You were mentioning a little bit earlier about just even on the technical side, the equipment involved in it, because I've actually gotten a chance to, someone was actually trying to sell it to us, the idea of, oh no, this was a great system back in the day. We spent about $10,000 on it, and it was both the camera with then the sway of cords going down to the tape deck, and then had the complementary light kit with the battery belt on it here. So we're talking about everything that I have essentially on this phone now.
Yes.
The lens, the recording medium, the battery, and the light in about, let's call it roughly 70 pounds of equipment.
That's what it was when it was 3/4 inch days. And now it's much more mobile. So technically, it's easier, although you could still set up all the lights you want and have the best tripod. I mean, the finest equipment is out there for movie making and news gathering, but generally it's backpack journalism. You gather it, you go get it together, you shoot by yourself a great many times. That's interesting. In the early era when I first started, people worked by themselves. And because we didn't have that many reporters, and then you got the big 3/4 inch gear and you're carrying stuff on your shoulders and back, and we started shooting more in 2-man crews. And now as the years have evolved, we still have 2-man crews in many instances, but the multimedia journalist is now generally a 1-person crew going out to shoot by themselves because the equipment is so much smaller and more portable. So now we're getting back to a journalist working by themselves, backpack journalism.
Interesting perspective there. Due for that next break of this hour right now. Again, joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell on the occasion of his impending retirement as the general manager of KVIA-TV, and marking the career, the many changes you've seen both in your own time and now El Paso Broadcasting. So we'll talk more about this coming out of this break here. Again, this is a pre-recorded episode, but if you want to leave those comments over on social media, you're more than welcome to. We'll pop some of those up during our broadcast. So a lot more to go here, a lot more we'll be talking about, so stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs...
We are the El Paso History Radio Show, and all the ways that you can find us to tune in. We are streaming this program online on the Facebook page, El Paso History Radio Show. Of course, also on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. You can find us there. Also through the iHeartRadio app and over on KTSMradio.com. Tell you a little bit about what we got coming up for you next week on the program. Of course, that will be Memorial Day weekend, and we are going to be marking that by talking about the heroes of Company E, the Patriots from the Barrio, the book by Dave Gutierrez. He'll be joining us by phone that day, talking about some of those aspects, bringing in some of the family members as well of those service members, as well as the new monument that is coming out from the city here. So stay tuned for that here. One more sponsor we, of course, also want to remind you about Mission Del Rey Southwest that has just quite an amazing selection of souvenir gifts, jewelry, and decor, both for yourself and to give away. They have great discounts on some of their items here, but also quite the selection of local products. It's not even just stuff you can put on the wall or sit on or wear in some cases, stuff that you can eat and really literally get the flavor of the Southwest. So if you want to get them, again, find them out at their 12,000 square foot showroom on Lee Trevino. Go to missiondelrey.com for all the details, or give them a call at 915-440-2140. That's 915-440-2140, and mention the El Paso History Radio Show for a discount. Again, missiondelrey.com. Joined here back in studio for this shortish segment here with Kevin Lovell, again, the impending retiring general manager of KVIA-TV. And something interesting that we've been kind of hinting at is the personnel part of it here, because there's been a lot of talk in the modern sense of work and people willing and ability to do so lately in this modern time here. But you've seen a couple of different, I guess, trends throughout your career of how people have even regarded the craft and the career of being a journalist, and particularly on TV.
Well, television always had an amazing allure because people like communication. They want to be on TV. They may want to be recognized. They want to deliver the message, etc. And there used to be an inordinate number of applicants for positions, particularly on-air positions, and it's no mas. It's very difficult. The number and pool of candidates coming out of the universities and wanting to go into journalism, but that's the true in almost every walk of life. They're having trouble in virtually every field finding enough candidates and applicants. It's interesting. I was talking to Dr. Richard Lang from Texas Tech Medical School. He heads the medical school just this week on this. I was curious. I said, what about the number of medical and dental school applicants? He goes, that's going through the roof. We have 15 to 20% more applicants than we once did. So in some areas, there are more applicants. But in other areas like broadcast and journalism, there are fewer. And it's somewhat understandable because it's a fast-paced, high-pressure environment. The pay is not particularly good to start. You got to work nights, weekends, whatever. I mean, it's a challenge. It's fun. It's invigorating. You never forget your time in broadcast or journalism, but there aren't as many candidates. So we all have to beat the bushes, so to speak, try to find the good candidates, to try to reach out, to be proactive, because if you just place that blind ad like you used to and expect 100 videotapes to show up, or video reels nowadays, it just doesn't happen like that anymore. Even in the major markets.
Really?
They do not have, they are scrambling, particularly some positions like producers. They're behind-the-scenes writers. They organize the newscasts. People that are good writers, and maybe if you're an English major and in school, and maybe you're not going to teach or want to do something else, television broadcast is a phenomenal opportunity because you can go in and write and organize the newscasts. And it's a wonderful opportunity. And you can go, if you don't want to stay in El Paso, you can go to major markets within 2 to 3 years if you get good in it, and you will. So, but we produce in El Paso a very good product. Not only KVI, but all of the television stations produce a very solid, we debuted a new set in January. People have good-looking sets, good-looking people. They produce journalism in the right way. So El Paso plays bigger than its market size. Television stations are numbered by market size, and we're market number 93, according to Nielsen, out of 208 markets. So we are not even San Antonio, Phoenix, Dallas size. And so typically it's kind of like minor league baseball, and we're a AAA baseball team. We play like a AAA news product in El Paso, but we're really closer to a AA level if you consider we're the market number 93. If they counted Ciudad Juarez in the audience, we would balloon to the top 40s or 30s.
Yep, because Nielsen, that has always been the part that has irked me and many, many others, I'm sure, of that the Nielsen ratings, they stop at the border, but of course the signal doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't. And so there are many watching across the border, especially watching our Spanish language broadcasts here as well.
Exactly, because it's not market size on how many actually trying to figure out what is actually receiving the signal. It's based on just the number of households in a community here. So, I easily would say that we the other regional comparison that is often made is with Albuquerque. I mean, there's been some movement from locals up to there from stations as well, and we would outstrip Albuquerque because Albuquerque, well, let's just look at the size comparison here. El Paso, the actual market area, is essentially the El Paso County, sometimes Hudspeth, sometimes not, and Doña County, though that has been a conflict at some points when Nielsen has said, well, it makes sense to go with the rest of New Mexico, and then the local stations come together and say, what the hell are you talking about? No, it doesn't. This is El Paso's market area, but whereas Albuquerque is essentially the rest of New Mexico for the most part here. So that's just an interesting way that it is dealt with in that regard.
It's very interesting about the market size. The counties like Culbertson County, not Culbertson County, Otero County, Alamogordo is the county seat. That is in the Albuquerque DMA. Now, if you're, it would take too long to explain how that evolved. It's a shame because it used to be in the El Paso DMA. But if you go to Chaparral, New Mexico, and that's not 20 miles from where we're sitting right now on Mesa Street near Executive, you are in the Albuquerque television market. If you're in Otero County, Chaparral, New Mexico. If you're in Doña County of Chaparral, then you're in our market. So those people living within 20 miles of our transmitter site actually are designated for Albuquerque. If they subscribe to satellite or cable, they receive Albuquerque, when the Franklin Mountains are the very shadow into their community.
Just ever so slightly of a sore point there. Yeah, absolutely, because that's just one of those quirks of how the system works here, because there's not any, say, government agency that regulates these things. I mean, there are certain, like, FCC kind of things, but when it comes to the ratings specifically, this is, it's primarily private companies that are making their decisions on how it works here, and this is why there are sometimes these gripes, grumbles, and cases that come along with it that has happened at previous times, because, again, there, to my understanding, have been attempts previously by Nielsen, as you mentioned, they're one of the premier companies, among others, out there these days, that are trying to say, well, they're, Doña County is in New Mexico, so it should really go with the rest of New Mexico, and it's taken the local station groups banding together to say, no, that does not make sense.
Center area, they trade. If you're going to shop and you live in Las Cruces and they don't have the store that you're seeking, you're not going to drive to Albuquerque, you're going to drive to El Paso. So that's the trade area.
Exactly. So again, just ever so slightly of a sore subject depending on who you talk to around here about that here. But we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will talk more again with Kevin Lovell joining us in studio here on the occasion of his retirement after a long career in El Paso broadcasting, talking more about that, more about the history, more of all of that coming up here on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com, and you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Monterey Asset Management is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, maybe you should invest in real estate. Monterey Asset manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the new website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call Certified Property Manager Ray Baca, 915-592-4549, 592-4549.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Ralph Dickerson is ready to help you combine home and auto and save here in El Paso. Call 915-581-0000 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national.
We are, of course, streaming in all the places we are up online these days. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under the El Paso History Radio Show or Andrew J. Polk is where you can find us, see the full video that we do along with these broadcasts. But if you're tuned with us on air, you're more than welcome to stick around there as well. Just the added benefit of being online with us in those mediums is you can leave your comments. We'll pop up some of those during our replay of this otherwise pre-recorded show here. A couple of things we want to tell you about coming up this week, only in El Paso Inc., El Paso's Business Journal. We'll be focusing up even further on some of those local impactful stories. So to get your delivery of El Paso Inc., make sure to visit online elpasoinc.com, because as El Paso's Business Journal, El Paso Inc. is available for home or business delivery. So make sure to check them out there. A couple other things going on in and around the community. We, of course, want to mention for you that we do, of course, have the El Paso Train Show going on right now. Again, that's going on until 5 p.m. today at 801 South Hawkins at the Freeport McMoran Copper Refinery Port. And if you're wondering about that phrasing there, Freeport, MCMORAN is the name there. Looking forward in kind of the industrial area, but that's where they keep the trains. So that's if you want to visit them there. And also coming up next week, previous guests on the show here, of course, at the Gardner Hotel, marking their 100th anniversary of opening. They're going to be doing some public events coming up May 28th with hotel tours, so you can see it for yourself. If you've never had reason to stay in an hotel at El Paso, if you live here, it's understandable, but getting a sense of the history is certainly a great opportunity to do so here. Again, that's going to be at the Gardner, their public events from 3 to 5 p.m. coming up here on the 28th, and that address there to find them is at 311 East Franklin Avenue in downtown El Paso. But otherwise, in the meantime, of course, joined here continually in studio by Kevin Lovell, talking with him on his occasion of impending retirement from KVIA-TV. So we've talked a lot about some of the people, some of the technology, some of the currents you've seen, but of course, some of the stories that you have seen go by, I'm sure have been significant over the years. I mean, there's been, even just talking about how it's produced as fast paced, it feels like it's gotten faster, but that has not meant that there's been any lack of very important things to focus on over the years, I'm sure. Well,
Obviously the biggest story in decades is the horrendous Walmart shooting that we all had to endure, and
August
we're
3rd,
still
yes.
waiting for the trial and all of the fallout from that. I mean, that story was a type of story that the TV stations covered for hours for the rest of that Saturday. I still remember I was camping in the mountains and totally away from cell phone and everything. And I came driving back into cell phone range as I get back into the Tularosa Basin. And my phone, I had multiple messages and texts and what's going on? And we were already live on the air. So I totally missed, because I was several hours into it because I wasn't coming out until Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And, oh my goodness. And I was trying to drive from Alamogordo to El Paso, and I was listening to the stream, which is amazing you can do nowadays on my phone, and then I'd have to disengage from the stream to call in to try to make observations. Why don't we do this, do that? Even though we have a news director, I still have been very much involved. So that's a story that we'll never forget. And I'd say number 2 was that storm 2006. That's the most significant weather event. And here on the west side, Thunderbird was a river, and you had couches rolling down in dumpsters, and it was just an unbelievable flood. We went on live for 13 hours in the wake of that, and then all the flood control and damage that was done. And then more recently, all of the immigration stories. The thing is that when people come to El Paso, if they're from out of town, you're talking about a bountiful number of news stories. We've got Customs and Border Patrol. We've got the immigration stories. We cover 3 states, Chihuahua, and then, of course, Texas and New Mexico, and the 3 counties. And then we've got Fort Bliss and all of the developments of Fort Bliss, which always brings U.S. presidents and delegations from Congress here for immigration and military matters. I mean, we are a bountiful community for news. I guarantee you, Des Moines is a bigger market, but it's boring compared to El Paso. I just give that as an example. And any of these reporters who have moved on to other markets, it's almost seemingly like they cover mundane, not that they're mundane, but city council issues and all. And here in El Paso, everything's bursting at the seams, so to speak. And the other thing that in recent era, I think of Duranguito, and I think it was the 2012 bond issues. We still haven't fully sorted that out. We have the money designated for a downtown arena. We have Max Grossman and J.P. Bryan, who challenged it apparently successfully in court, and there's going to be revisions or changes or something. And you've got Duranguito, where they started with the bulldozers and they stopped it by court order, and now it's all just boarded up, and there's still more history and drama to unfold there. So you talk about the women in Juarez, the killings, and then the drug trade and the drug traffic, and 9 murders a day and all that. So, and then Las Cruces has its numerous stories, including the one I will never forget, the Las Cruces Bowling Alley Massacre. I was a young weekend assignment editor. And this was in 1990 when I got a phone call. And somebody said, something's going on with Las Cruces Bowl. What is it? I don't know. Hang up. I called the Las Cruces Police Department. I said, is something going on at Las Cruces Bowl? And they said, we don't have time to talk about it. Click. I then grabbed my camera. I left the newsroom, and on Saturday morning, I'm the only one there. I drove straight to Las Cruces, and I was there for more than 12 hours that day covering the wake of that horrendous crime, which remains unsolved. It remains equivalent, first or second largest unsolved mass slaying in U.S. history. And so every year it's February 10th, that was the day, we still remember those victims. So the news stories are immense, they're important, they're national in scope, and they keep coming.
Yeah, I grew up in the frame of when, it was referred to as nothing to do in El Paso or Hell Paso or those kind of phrases here as if we're some dusty backwater that has nothing going on here. And that never clicked for me.
No.
That just never made sense.
No, there's plenty going on here. And we have all the cultural events, too, good things. And that's what the radio history show highlights. That's what your dad was just talking about, Jackson Polk, when he's talking about we have to simply take care and try to develop heritage tourism in El Paso, because we've got everything from the missions to the Franklins to the Rio Grande to the history. It's phenomenal. I love the history here. And it goes to Columbus, New Mexico, and the raid by Pancho Villa, and the Mexican Revolution right here on our doorstep, or in El Paso. The bullets were flying over here. I mean, it goes on. And the establishment of Fort Bliss, the establishment of UTEP. I love all those stories. I commend KTSM Radio. I commend you. I commend Jackson Polk and Bernie Sargent and Melissa Sargent and those involved in producing this very important program. I listen routinely. I love this program. I wish there was more of it. It needs to be taught in our schools in El Paso. They do learn Texas history. It needs to be more El Paso concentrated.
Absolutely. Mentions of El Paso. I remember from my 7th grade textbook, El Paso was chapter 4 or so when it started with, we're a dry city, they get less than 11 inches of rain a year. First mention. That was about it.
I don't think we get that much rain anymore. It hadn't rained in months. Let's have some rain, please.
Yeah, that would be nice to have here. One kind of final thought I want to kind of get to here is, I mean, there are plenty of good things to talk about, and we try to focus on them on our air as much as possible, but that moment when you were just kind of describing it there, I was getting the feeling back that kind of hair sticking up on the back of your neck, that almost surge of adrenaline when you find out that there is something huge going on, and it is now your job to then go out and cover it, gather the information, and then bring it back and present it. It's almost, for the people I know who have stuck in this industry at large, and TV specifically for a long time, that's what ultimately kind of hooks them. The idea that there is something huge going on and you are going to be the one to do it. Not necessarily as an important, but that surge of adrenaline, that rush, that almost feeling in the pit of your stomach you get when you know that, whoa, something has happened and we are now going to go and cover it.
And when that happens, the people that are off, journalists, they come straight to the TV station. They go to the newspaper. They go to the online source. They want to report. They want the public to know the clear and accurate story, and they're volunteering. And it doesn't matter how many hours and how much effort and how many deadlines. And in our case, when we have the biggest of stories, we're going live straight through. There's nothing scripted. We're showing videos and interviews and whatever. And those are the adrenaline rushes, but that's not the important element. The important element is informing the community about what's going on. And that is the responsibility of journalists in El Paso. I'm honored to have been part of a television station that really tries hard to produce quality journalism. And at least since I've been there since 1980, we've done the best we can.
And of course, we're marking that history as we are now. We got to take that break before we hit the bottom of the hour here, or the end of the hour, I should say here. So again, joining us in studio here is Kevin Lovell, marking the occasion of his impending retirement here. We'll be back, close out, final thoughts here with more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to a break in our Facebook streaming of the El Paso History Radio Show, which airs live on KTSM AM 690 in El Paso, Texas, and live right here now on our El Paso History Radio Show page on Facebook.com.
Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Western, Native American, and Mexico items for gifts and decor. Bring your friends and mention you heard us on the radio for a store-wide discount. Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. Enter on Pelicano. Go to missiondelrey.com or call 915-440-2140 for Mission Del Rey Southwest.
This radio show is now streaming on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Barbara Given Bainey. We still archive the audio of these radio shows on ephistory.com. And you can go there online and find our radio shows for the last several years. Go to ephistory.com and access the El Paso History Radio Show archives for every Saturday radio show back to early 2016.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco Tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery.
Thank you so very much for having joined us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM in this pre-recorded edition here, as we've had the opportunity to be joined here in studio by Kevin Lovell, the current and now outgoing general manager of KVIA-TV, as you are going to be retiring here. So as you we've covered a lot of ground here over this couple of hours in both the technology, the people, the stories, and your experience with it all. But when it comes to, if you're looking back on it, over these, again, decades of it, thinking about how things are now, what are your thoughts on how it's changed, what has stayed the same, if anything, and where it even might be going?
Well, traditional news journalism has kind of reached its zenith, I think. We've expanded as many newscasts as we can. We do weekend morning news at KVIA. We do extra, the late night issues program, and then we have an hour and a half on Good Morning El Paso, and an hour at noon, and an hour at 4, and 30 minutes at 5, and 30 minutes at 6, and 30 minutes at 10, and then weekends. So I think that there are other opportunities, particularly in the digital realm. We continue to feed the social media beast because a lot of people consume their news via social media. Please don't make that your only source. Anyone listening to this radio program right now, that's not their only source, because that comes from all directions. But we still provide content online at KVIA.com, as does all legitimate news organizations. So it's there, and it's balanced, and it's vetted, and we do the best job we can. As far as where it's headed with traditional news and traditional television and radio stations, they're hanging in there. Newspapers has really, really struggled. I commend the El Paso Inc. in particular, which has done exceedingly well and continues to do well. I think that's a great vision of the Fentons and what they've been able to accomplish. But you never really know what's going to happen because the change is fast and furious. The one thing about traditional media, it is supported by advertising. Advertisers are great in El Paso in recognizing and understanding that you need to support local media and the content that local media produces. Google doesn't produce any content, doesn't do any good for anybody other than distributing news. So advertisers who advertise on Google or Facebook, they're not supporting local media. And if you're supporting local media, you're getting your content through local media. And local media is only produced and derived from the advertising that we achieve generally with local dollars. So it's vastly and vitally important that local advertisers please continue to support local media so you can get good, solid local information.
Absolutely not going to find any argument with me on that point. Very much like the idea of supporting as much local as possible, because really, if you don't, you're gonna get what you get when it comes out of it here. And if you don't have that local connection to it, I mean, that's why I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am, producing what we do and talking about things the way they are, and being able to put on programs like this here. So, you going to slow down in your retirement at all? I can't imagine you will.
I want to follow up very briefly. Because the owner of we're owned by a family in Missouri. Every other television station, I think radio station in El Paso is owned by major publicly traded conglomerates or private equity firms. We actually have a family that owns. I can pick up the phone. It's kind of nice to have that. And we had a conference call last week, and our president of our entire company, actually the CEO, he said that, the local content you produce, the FCC notices, politicians notice, local consumers of news notice it, the social media companies notice it. It is noticed, it is appreciated, it is necessary. So local content is what drives the information and the fueling of information that people want to get in their communities. So you have to think about it in that context. And when you do, you realize the value of local content. And I'm just glad that I've played a small role in helping to develop and appreciate local content for the consumers in El Paso.
And hopefully continues on even after this transition. Again, as you mentioned, going to be taking into that spot will be the current news director, Brenda Deonda Swan, and you'll have a new news director coming in, right?
Yeah, he's just started. His name is Sean Flanagan, has world of experience from many markets around the country. We needed to go out of town to get the type of candidate that had the background that we needed, but he is growing and embracing and loves El Paso, and ABC 7 will be just fine. We've been extremely strong for a long time. We've hired a lot of great people. Many of the great ones have moved on to other walks of life. We still have a product to produce, and the news will be on at 6 tomorrow night, whether Well, in this case, we were listening on Saturday. It'll be on at 5 the next night. But the
On
news
Sunday.
will be on. It will be on at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock on KFOX. It's going to be on every day. We'll be here, and that's the mission of local broadcasts and journalists, and certainly KVIA-TV.
And I'm sure people will be seeing, you'll be having more remembrances, more of these things. Some of that clip we played, that was just a short bit of the full thing that you'll be playing of just that part, and a whole lot more coming out on that. So people should stay tuned to see more of that.
June 1st is my actual last day. And so that would be a day to tune in to see reminiscences. Now, remember, I am many years removed from being on air. And I'm sort of at the forefront. I've been interviewed. I've been at it for so long. But there are some old clips, like my fruitcake story.
I was going to mention the fruitcake story, yeah.
And so there may be little snippets of that shown because we resurrect that every Christmas. It was a goofy story I did about a fruitcake that chases me around KVIA. And we all know that we hate fruitcake, but not that story.
Fantastic. Well, Kevin Lovell, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us and
Thank you,
do
Andrew
all of
J.
this here
Polk.
today.
Thank you for presenting this program, El Paso Radio History Show. Very important element in El Paso.
Happy to do it and happy to talk about all the things we do. So thank you all for joining us here as well. Again, for this pre-recorded episode, we'll be back with you live next week with more El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Have a great weekend, y'all.